Hello and welcome to episode 49 of Adult Music, the podcast with music for the mature mind. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Russ. How are things?
I smell something.
What is that?
In the air.
Oh.
It's the...
Is it turning you on?
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, man.
It's...
And why would that be?
It's the Spanish fly.
Yeah, that's our episode tonight. Spanish fly.
That's right. We've got
music to seduce the ladies.
Yeah, we've got a program of music. Well, it's not all directly or originating in Spain, but at least indirectly, it all flows from.
Yeah, I should mention it's all Spanish music too, or Hispanic at least.
Hispanic, yes.
Yeah.
As the culture and sounds of Spain spread around the globe and just produced all these wonderful kinds of music.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've been sitting on, as far as the classical end goes, I've been sitting on two of these albums for months now. We probably really shouldn't be doing these at this point because they're from the first half of last year, 2021. But I wanted to get them in, and I should have just done them when they came out. I think this year, after we do our anniversary episode, we're going to, come back to, the previous 3 or 4 months or so,
right,
and try to keep it with that.
Well, on my jazz list, I've got a fresh one that it's supposed to be available, but you can't really listen to it anywhere yet. But I'll talk more about that because I got a way you can listen to it for only our listeners. But
excellent.
We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, one's fresh off the presses. So.
Okay, so I don't know.
Sounds good. Whoa.
Oh, it's all Spanish and. Does the Spanish fly have a smell to it? Is that why you did that?
No,
I don't know.
No reason really. Just something to get started.
What were you sniffing in the air there? I'm horrified to think.
I don't know. Yeah, just I smelled the excitement of Spanish and Latin music in the air.
That's
right. Yeah,
it does. It gets sweaty in there.
Yeah. Well, before we get going into our Spanish selections, I want to remind listeners. In the episode description, we've got links to Spotify and Apple Music for almost all of the music we'll discuss. Whenever we have something that's not available on streaming, I'll put up the link to the record company or artist's site so that you can check it out. Maybe get some samples and order it if you want. And then also on the description top, there's a link to the full episode playlist. That's all the music in one neat place on Deezer, our preferred streaming platform, and you can also listen to the podcast on Deezer if you'd like. Just look us up under Adult Music Podcast. There's a playlist for every episode, including the current one. And whatever app you're on, checking us out, or platform, if you don't see the full description with the links to the music, hop on over to our host, Podbean, where you can follow all the links with one click. If you enjoy the podcast, please do follow or subscribe on whatever app or platform you listen to us on. And if you just take a moment to give us a ranking or write a review, that will help us get listed in the browsing category recommendations, which are ever crowded, not with Spanish music, but K-pop podcasts.
Okay.
We just don't need more of those.
They have a lot of fans, though. You don't want to make them mad at you. They'll just kind of all pile on.
I don't think we've got much crossover. But anyway, it would be nice to have some more classical and jazz things up there for people to discover. And if you give us a little ranking, that helps us out, and we'll get more listeners. Maybe
we can get one of those K-pop guys to co-host the show with us.
Well, that would be an interesting conversation, yeah.
Well, if they like classical and jazz, it would.
Okay, so any K-pop guys who are interested in coming on, or other listeners, if you'd like to contact us directly, any comments, questions, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is adultmusicpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we should just dive in, huh?
Jump in. Let's jump in.
All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to start in classical music, and we're going back to the Baroque era. How great is this? Baroque, Spanish, Mexican. This is, how could it not be good? Well, it depends on the artists, really, but first of all, we have the this first album on the Brilliant Classics label, which is a budget label, by the way. So if you buy this, it'll be cheaper. It's kind of like the Naxos label that way. Brilliant Classics again. The album has the thrilling title, Navigating Foreign Waters. I don't think you want an ing word starting your title somehow. It just kind of takes away from it. Anyway, Navigating Foreign Waters, Spanish Baroque music and Mexican folk music. Now, I should mention, when they say this isn't going to be an album of Spanish Baroque music and there are going to be some Mexican folk music pieces on them. No, they're all put together into the same pieces. It's kind of interesting. And I found this record really compelling. But we'll see. Okay, the artists are, it's not an ensemble here, it's just three people. María Cristina Kiehr, who we heard on the Josquin recording a few weeks ago. She's the voice. She's labeled as voice. I believe she's I think she's a mezzo-soprano. Yeah. But she does sound kind of in the middle here.
Yeah, I like her voice, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good voice, but I'll have something to say, but I like her, actually. But we'll get to that. Krishnasol Jiménez on Baroque guitar. Krishna, wow. I wonder who his parents were.
Krishnasol.
Yeah. Baroque guitar, very gentle sounding instrument. And Roberto Koch, or Koch, depending on where he's from, on the colacione. Now, colacione is kind of a Renaissance era instrument, kind of like a lute with a very long neck.
And here it's used as like a bass instrument, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's lower. Yeah, okay, it's lower than a lute is, because the Baroque guitar, of course, is going to be the higher instrument in this case. It's actually mainly used in southern Italy, so I don't know how I got on this.
I don't know, but it's cool because it's like the bass, but he's not limited to that, and it adds another sort of counter line and interesting things to this whole recording. So I liked it a lot. Interesting combination. Yeah.
Okay. Now let me sort of set this up before we go into these 10 pieces, which are all by Santiago de Murcia, or Murcia, I guess you'd pronounce it, except for one, which is by Gaspar Sanz, who we know because Joaquin Rodrigo used his music in his I think Fantasia para un gentil hombre, and also he may have, who did the Canarios movement at the end of Concerto de Aranjuez? I don't remember who that was, but by the way, if you don't know those two pieces by Rodrigo, just shut the podcast off right now.
Listen to those.
And go listen to those, because they're amazing. Okay, both of them are fantastic. If you like classical guitar, okay, Concerto de Aranjuez, or I should say Concierto de Aranjuez, and because you got to say it the Spanish way, and Fantasia para un gentil hombre, okay, by Joaquin Rodrigo. All right, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about much earlier music than that. Okay, so I have this on a CD, actually. And I'm rather a fan of María Cristina Kiehr, so I was really kind of keen to hear this. The booklet, the voice in this, the booklet gives some explanation of the history of the son, which is sort of like the Spanish or Hispanic music song style. And this word son, it has a really complicated history, and unless you're involved in Spanish music as either a player or a scholar or just born into the culture, you really, it's hard to get to know. You really have to immerse yourself in it, because it's like English-speaking culture, Spanish-speaking culture, of course, spread all through South America, Central America. It's in Spain, of course, and each, the Caribbean, and each of these countries has developed its own style of this music. These are all intensely musical cultures. So it's kind of hard to explain, because we're going to hear more son later in the jazz, but that's like Cuban son. That's different than this. But still, they say the same word. How it evolved into the elements we hear on this album. It doesn't say anything about the individual works, though, so I can't really... I did a bit of work to try to explain what's going on in these works, but it's kind of hard to do. I wasn't able to find all that much information. What they've done here is fairly original. Basically, what this album does is combine Baroque music techniques with those used in the Veracruz region of Mexico, which is known as the Jarocho style. I hope I said that right. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. Here I am doing a Spanish podcast. It's all Spanish music. I don't speak this language. So horrible.
No. Yeah, so anyway. Don't hope we don't get any tomatoes thrown at us or anything.
Yeah, no tomatoes. You can kind of send us some pronunciation guides if you like, so we can get them right in the future.
By the way, if there's any ladies, native Spanish speakers with like a real sexy voice, like a radio voice, and you want to come on and pronounce the words for us as a guest host, we could work something out.
Yeah, you can come here. Actually, it doesn't matter who it is, really. We'll take anybody. Just help us out, because I use this site. I'm not going to say who it is, like, to get pronunciations, and sometimes it's just the internet. They just pronounce the words wrong.
Right.
Like I'll look up some stuff that I know, and they'll say, you'll get. They just don't. They just say the word like they think it's pronounced, and nobody's really looked it up. It's really horrible. Anyway,
who are you going to rely on in this day?
The internet is as much a hindrance as it is a help. Basically, you gotta really. It actually think it makes you do more work in a way. That's right. Trying to figure out what's true and what's not.
Yeah, we deal with lots of different languages on this podcast, so we can't be experts in them in all of them. Let alone.
I have to say though, we're pretty impressive. Between us, we've got a few. Quite a few languages in there. I think it's a lifetime of listening to all this music too. Kind of helped with that.
Well, I did study Spanish, but it's been more than 30 years since I've looked at it. So the closest I get is salsa records these days. Anyway.
Well, there's also like great Spanish music too, from Spain, classical music. Okay, so the jarocho style is a conservative style that keeps fundamental traits of Spanish music alive. The guitar is usually strummed in this style, and you'll usually hear it plucked in Baroque music, right? Think about classical guitar. It's rarely strummed, okay? The lute, classical music kind of evolved really from these string instruments in Italy, the colacione, the lute, and then, and they're all plucked instruments basically. But in more popular music, you'll hear the guitar strummed. Now in these pieces, you're going to hear both at the same time. Like one instrument is plucking and one is strumming, and it's really cool. It's this beautiful, gentle sound both of these instruments get, and it's just enjoyable throughout. They get these really delicate timbres. The variety of approaches is really nice. I don't know that the approach is different, just the music. If it's written on how much improvising they're doing, I really don't know what these chords look like. Yeah,
there is a lot of variety in here, but almost everything is in triple meter. It's almost every tune is
that's true.
In the style, it doesn't vary from that. So,
right.
Yeah, you'll only be able to count to 3 after you listen to this record.
Right.
So you'll need to reorient your counting after that.
Yeah, another thing you're going to have to deal with that's kind of the same is María Cristina Kiehr's voice. And it's going to be crucial that you like this voice, because she doesn't vary her tone throughout the album. She always sounds the same. Now, it's a very pretty voice. I once described it as this kind of like a certain mannish sort of hardness to it, but it's up in the kind of soprano range. And it's pretty. I should also mention, despite her, don't let her name fool you, she's actually Argentinian. Now, that means she's a native Spanish speaker, but she's a native Spanish speaker from Argentina, which is very different than being a native Spanish speaker from Spain or Mexico.
Right.
It's a different style, okay? And so she's not really... I mean, she's pronouncing all the words right, and she's getting all the enunciations right, but the style isn't quite, I don't think it's authentic as... I hate the word authentic. But it's good enough. But what I'm saying is I think this music would benefit from a lighter voice, especially given the lighter instruments that are being used here. That said, I'm rather a fan of hers, and I really like her. The thing is, she sings on all 10 of these tracks, and when I really got to know her singing back in the 2000s, the early 2000s on recordings, she was often paired with someone else. And I really felt that this album would have benefited a lot if there was another singer and they would alternate tracks. You'd have just different timbres, and I think that would have been helpful. But besides that, it's whether you like this recording live is really going to depend on whether you like her voice. Now, I do. I wish there was a little more variety in it. I wish there were a little more variety in it. But this is what we've got. Okay, I should say Santiago de Murcia also has a connection with Mexico, in that some of his manuscripts we have of his music were discovered there. He's actually from Spain. Okay, and so we know a lot of his music from Mexican manuscripts. So we're going to start out track 1 with the only work by Gaspar Sanz on this album, La Bruja, and this is Yacaras. And Yacaras is a Spanish song performed during the entr'acte of a theater piece, so the pause in a theater piece. And it's also the accompaniment to many types of dances. This particular tune is plucked by the string instruments. La Bruja is the witch. It means the witch. And the lyric goes through some folk beliefs about what witches do. Each verse kind of has a different thing where this person is being abducted by a witch. María Cristina Kiehr has a very clear voice here, and I remember the cloudy quality they gave her on the Josquin album, so you can kind of hear her voice to better effect on this record. The guitars on this have a nice crisp quality to them too. They're close up, and they're really clear. You can hear all the just the beautiful sounds they make. It really is wonderful. I enjoyed hearing the guitars all the way through, and I found myself zooming in on them quite a bit. I like the way the guitars just keep adding new figuration in the long gaps between the verses too. Like the verse will end, and you think there's a little bridge to the next verse, but no, they just keep going and going until the next verse comes, and it's all really inventive and interesting. Again, I don't know how much of that is improvised and how much is actually written down on paper, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of it is sort of improvised. It has that quality to it. They kind of sound like streams of purling water in a brook, if you can kind of imagine a sort of plucked guitar sound. It's like that. It's kind of swirling a little bit. Okay, I think I also like the way this tune just ends, as the vocal has just fallen off a cliff. I guess it kind of gives that feeling of danger that you have when you're with a witch. Anyway, second track. What, have you really? Yeah. You want to tell us about that, or should we go on to the next track? What do you think?
We'll save that for Girls, Girls, Girls episode.
We have to name an episode Girls, Girls, Girls. Yeah. I don't know.
We'll get there. Okay,
next we have La Carretera, which is a cumbe, and I don't know what that is really. This is by Murcia, I should say. That's not a lisp. That's the way the Spanish would say it. All the rest of the pieces are going to be by Santiago de Murcia. Okay, La Carretera means the highway, and this one is strummed. It's combined Baroque and Jarocho, plucking and mostly strumming. The voice is on the heavy side on this one. And this is kind of where I kind of thought, she's not really inflecting the words. Like, there's not much flexibility to the voice, and I think we would have benefited from that. But as I said, it's an appealing voice. I don't really want to complain about it because I liked it enough. The lyrics are about leaving and coming back, basically, the highway. Track 3, Los Huyes, which is a kind of fish. A huyes is a kind of fish. This piece has a lot of plucking in the guitars, strumming in the repeating chorus. So there's your variety. You have the plucked verse and the strummed chorus. The guitars get a solo sections in between the verses, and they're all rather nice again. Track 4, Sequicity, Yacaras. Okay, another one of these dance pieces or entr'acte for a theater piece. This is about the vocalist's love and faithfulness. This has strumming guitars and some gorgeous plucking while the vocalist sings. I really honed in on this. A beautiful arrangement, if that's what it is. Well, it is, because the two instruments chosen probably aren't indicated in the score. I think they just chose these. They would have been guitars, at least. The guitar textures change between the... I have between the voices here. I wonder what I mean by that. What I like the... Okay. At this point, I noticed that Kiehr didn't have much variety of tone, so we're just kind of hearing that same voice again and again. Next, track 5, Los Giles Verdes. I really liked this one. This is a tarantellas, which I believe is a southern Italian style. The tarantella, which is a very fast dance in 6/8, so 3, basically 3. Okay. So it's kind of a spinning sort of motion. This song charmingly compares the singer's lover and love to various chilies and peppers. And
a hot it's all hot.
Yeah, it's all hot, but they're getting burned too. That's also sort of in there.
That can happen.
Well.
Yeah.
It's really clever. It's nice. Things haven't really changed much since the Baroque, I guess. Well, everything has changed except that certain things haven't.
Witches
Some
are
things
still
eternal.
around. I know that.
What was that?
The witches are still around too.
Yeah, relationships are still hard too. All right, nice tempo, textural changes in this. The sound of the Baroque guitar is very gentle and touching. I love that, hearing that instrument. And as the mood changes, Kiehr changes not the tone, but the volume of her voice. And, well, that was interesting. Okay, she gets a little louder when it has to be more passionate. So there is sort of some coloring, I guess, in this.
This one's a little different, yeah.
It is a little different.
I thought, I don't know if it's Italian, but the chord progressions are very Spanish to the dance. And
the rhythm, I'm saying, is Italian. That's the thing.
And there's some cool guitar doodling in this one, too. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. Right.
Yeah, the guitar doodles are really the best part of this album, I think.
Yeah.
All right, the sixth track is called La Yoraneta. Now, everybody probably knows the song La Llorona, at least from the that Pixar movie. What was it called? In Japanese, it's called Remember Me. Coco, it's called in English. Oh. In Japanese, it was Remember Me. In English, Remember Me. I don't see why they didn't just keep the name Coco, but it'd be easier to say.
Probably because Coco means here in Japanese, right? So
maybe. Yeah, but they could have just used the katakana, and they'd know. They could have called it Mama Coco. Mama here, I don't know. That doesn't.
They always rename movies here, and it makes it really hard to find them when if you're searching for them on a computer or on cable TV, you just search for them phonetically in katakana, and then the title's been changed to something that you would never think of.
I remember that movie just recently. Pixar put out the movie Luca. Now we deal with Japanese college students a lot, and they're it doesn't really matter how old they are. You can get even people here in their 40s and 50s, and they're really into animated things, like manga. There are adult manga as well as the ones for younger people, and they really love these things. They love just animation. They consider themselves to be like the world's connoisseurs on animation, and I wouldn't really doubt that. They seem to know a lot about it. But I was trying to get them to see this movie Luca, about the Italian the Italian town, and the two sea monsters who turn into humans when they come on the shore. Anyway, in Japanese it has a different name. It's called Ano Natsu no Luca. So I had to figure that out before they
Good luck.
understood what it was. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
The other way though, when there's a Japanese movie, like an old one, they'll kind of they have massively long names. The title is like a description,
right?
And they'll always try to shorten it in English to kind of make it seem more appealing to the to be more punchy for the English speaking audience, but it never really works.
Hard to cross reference these.
Yeah. Anyway, so La Yoraneta means the little weeper in this case. Okay, so La Llorona would be a famous. This isn't that. It's different. Okay. This has a strummed opening and mostly strumming during the vocals too, so it really sounds like a Mexican tune. The vocalist describes about how only by weeping can she rest. Oh, wouldn't want to be around this chick, let me tell you. The guitar interaction in this is beautifully touching. They are the highlight of this recording. And these songs are all really beautiful and refreshing, and I like this one a lot too.
Yeah, it's
a beautiful song.
Vocal has like a nice yearning quality to it on this track. I like this one too.
Number 7. There are 10 tracks, by the way. Number 7, Maria Cristina. This is a Jota, which I guess is a dance. I didn't really find that anywhere. This one is strummed. Very pretty counterpoint in the guitars between verses. One was strumming and the other plucking. They both start strumming, and then the textures change as they go. They pluck the melodies and solos. The song is about a man trying to convince Maria, of the title, to come away with him. When he catches her bathing, he keeps repeating that he doesn't roof her house. I don't know what that means. Maybe he just kind of wants her out in the open where he can see her, like in all her glory.
Some kind of Spanish idiom.
There must be some kind of like little joke in there that we're not getting. Yeah.
Like, hey, I'd like to roof your house anytime.
Hey, I'm not going to roof you. I'm not going to roof your house. Yeah. He says he doesn't roof her house. I don't know if that means he doesn't want to, or he's just, Anyway, Maria Cristina Kiehr sounds in her element here. I thought she sang this one really well too. I feel like this song could have really taken flight with a little more enthusiasm from her, though. As it is, it's good. She's a very careful singer, I think, especially on this tune. I would have liked her to let go more.
She's worried about the roof. That's why she's...
Maybe it's the roof, yeah. I wouldn't want to be bathing with that guy looking at me either, Anyway, El Gallo, track 8. This is a Folias Galegas, from Galega, I guess. Folia is a kind of... it's a chord progression, but in this case, I think it's also a dance. These Spanish words tend to have... They tend to refer to a lot of different musical elements at the same time. And I think this one does too. Some beautiful guitar plucking in this ballad, I said. I thought this was really lovely too.
This one's just guitar and voice, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
We don't have the
collection in this one. Yeah. Number 9, Fandanguito. Cool title. Because Fandango is kind of... It's a dance, but it kind of has this kind of cool image to it, to us in the English-speaking world. I think because of ZZ Top named one of their albums this or something. Okay, it's a partner dance that originated in Portugal and Spain, a fandango. It sounds kind of tough, All right, we hear Kiehr in her higher range here, and we've heard her in the middle of her range for really the entire album so far. This is a big change. Again, strumming and plucking together. One verse is recited by one of the instrumentalists, I guess, since there are only 3 of them on there. It's a male voice. Yeah. Okay. And we get to the last track, Agua Nieve. This is a Zarambek o Muecas. It's kind of both. Zarambek is a dance and musical form from the 17th century with roots in Spanish colonial America. So what that means is Spanish, African, and Mestizo influences converge. Mestizos, European, and indigenous Americans together. Okay. It's a lively, boisterous dance in triple or sextuple meter. Sextuple just means 2 3s. With parallel or serial second lines in a duple or quadruple meter. I copied this off Wikipedia. Okay, Agua Nieve means sleet. Kind of like some of us listening are probably experiencing now. But the lyrics also make it out to be a style of song. Okay, because he keeps saying sing the Agua Nieve. Kiehr sings this slow tune rather quietly and pleadingly, and I like her a lot here, so this is a good way to end. There's light strumming and melodic plucking figures throughout, and the piece has a beautiful melody. I would have liked maybe 1 or 2 instrumental tracks to break up the vocals on this album, or maybe another vocalist, maybe a male, to just kind of break up the monotony of the one voice all the way through. That doesn't mean to say that Kiehr is boring. She sings very well, and she understands. She's in the idiom, more or less. She's certainly got the pronunciation. The songs themselves on this they're a real find. I really enjoyed these songs a lot, and the guitar and colazione in duet are compelling throughout. So I would recommend this album with slight reservations. If it's free, definitely listen to it. Actually, it's cheap anyway because it's on Brilliant Classics, so you can buy it cheaply.
I like this one just for a few reasons. The uniqueness of this combination. And I tend to really like sparse instrumentation. As I age, I like non-amplified instruments. So I appreciate acoustic tones more. And so, I really like... trios, chamber music with trios, things where the parts of the instruments are, very clear. And then here you've got this, you don't get to hear colazione all the time. Yeah. And
usually it's accompanying or it's like the continuo, so you don't really get to hear what it sounds like anyway.
And the approach that he takes here is really cool because it's covering, the bass area, but He's also doing really interesting kind of counterpoint, and the interplay with the Baroque guitar is really interesting. So you have that. And I'm not a huge fan of soprano voices, but I found her range of soprano is kind of warm and endearing. It didn't push my soprano
endearing,
button.
definitely.
And the material was unique and interesting. So, yeah, I was engaged and pleased with this one.
Yeah, endearing is a good word for her voice, actually. I'm glad you said that. I wish I had thought of that. That's really what draws me to her.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, interesting recording.
All right, moving on to something really Spanish, by Enrique Granados, his great piano suite, Goyescas, Opus 11. And this set of it's a suite of 6 piano pieces, and there's a 7th one. I'll explain what that is too. Which doesn't belong. The 7th track doesn't belong to the suite. It's a separate Goyesca. The suite recounts musically the love story of 2 young people, and he kind of subtitles it Los Majos Enamorados, the young people in love. Okay. And the love story goes with their courting. There's a love duet. The young man dies, and then he reappears as a ghost.
Oh.
This is kind of a little unusual. What inspired Granados about Francisco Goya, the painter? Now, the title Goyescas comes from the painter's name, Goya's name. He was around in the classical era, 1746 to 1828 are his years. So basically around the time Beethoven was around. And really Mozart's entire life, too. He was around, too. Francisco Goya, he liked his sense of color, the vitality of a late 18th century popular Spain, and his tragic pessimism, the sense of death, which in Spanish psychology is often associated with love. So it's like Eros and Thanatos together. You often get this love and death theme in Latin cultures in general. Certainly in Italy you do too, especially in southern Italy. But it seems to have a real hold on like Spanish culture. If you think about even in things like the tango in Argentina,
right?
And what's the Spanish thing with the guitars?
Flamenco.
Yeah, flamenco. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there too. It's real deep music, passion.
This is interesting. Yeah. This is a first listen for me here,
but
I found a really big kind of French kind of impressionist focus on timbre combined with the intensity of Spanish rhythms. So you get kind of both in this music, which I thought was, you know, what made it unique for me.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention, by the way, about Enrique Granados. He wrote this piece, and he and his wife both died together when their ship was sunk in the English Channel by a German U-boat when they were returning from the United States after the American success of the opera Goyescas, which was written after this set of piano works. So it's kind of a sad ending. Granados, along with Albéniz, who is the great romantic composer of Spain, Granados is the great modernist composer of Spain, but the riches he would have left us had he lived on and kept writing music. It's really sad to think that we lost that, due to war, really. That was in 1916, World War I was on. Okay, these pieces are like fantastic improvisations. They're brilliant sometimes, then they're psychologically elaborate. They're full of refined harmonies. You can hear the inspiration of Scarlatti's sonatas and the Spanish Baroque in general in the generous ornamentation. And there's also a lot of Wagnerian chromaticism. All right, that means these works are very complicated, and they are.
And they turn on a dime.
They turn on a dime. Yeah. They're pretty long, and they're very involved. You really can't hear this only one time. You're not going to get it the first time. There's just too much going on. I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a sort of signposts. You can follow the story, and that'll help you through it. There are some real, there are certain elements of music that really just call up images of Spain, and I think it's because well, it's the folk music really. The Spanish have made the turn their own. You know, like the da na 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 na, you know, that kind of melody, or da na na na. These kind of these what do you call it, appoggiatura kind of things. Yeah, they have a special way with them. The way the French have a way with color. They have these little elements that make these works sound quintessentially Spanish. And you'll hear a lot of them in here, but you can hear a lot more too. What?
Well, this is just a completely a side thing, but
yeah.
So we live in Japan here, and one of the really interesting, strange things I noticed when I came to Japan, you know, if you turn on the television, they have what's called jidaigeki.
Oh, yes.
Which are basically, you know, historical movies often dealing with samurai.
Right.
And one of the strange kind of cultural appropriations or combinations I noticed was that samurai movies, without fail, feature Spanish music. And so whenever you're watching a samurai movie and the guy draws out his sword, you're going to hear that. And I found this extremely strange, you know, kind of a juxtaposition
kind of a weird thing.
This, you know, Spanish appoggiatura on a trumpet and then a sword by a samurai. But if you ask Japanese about it, it's something they've never noticed. It's just like always been used. So I just don't know how that came to be, you know, sandwiched in with. You know,
yeah, it just becomes like a way to indicate this this thing. That's kind of funny. Yeah. There are elements. There are similar elements, like the dances in Japan all use those folding fans, and the Spanish flamenco uses them too.
Right.
They're a different design of fan, but these hand fans. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's probably some connection somewhere. I don't know.
One of those things, you know.
Anyway, there's your PhD project, listeners. Whoever, if you're looking for one. Let us know about it if you find out any information, because I'm always interested to know about these world connections. Okay. Anyway, let's go through this. Now, these are all very long and very involved, so it's easy to get lost, but it's going to take several listens. Okay, I should also mention about the Goyescas. The single best recording ever made of these, and of any of Granados's and Albanese's works, are by the Spanish pianist Alicia de la Rocha. So if you've never heard these before, you're going to want to hear that performance. She seems unsurpassable in this music. And I've heard other performances of the Goyescas. They're odd because they're Spanish, but they're also complicated. And it's hard to really get a handle on, if you're the pianist, how to put it across. There are rhetorical bits where it sounds like someone's kind of talking, you know, so the melody kind of has this speaking quality to it, so you have to put across that emotion. It has a lot to do with timing. I think these are really hard to play and put across as far as the ever-changing mood goes. And I've heard other pianists play these, and they just don't get the Spanish flavor of this. The pianist here on this album is Viviana Lasaracina. She's Italian. And this is on the Dynamic label, which is an Italian label. It might be pronounced Dynamique because it's an Italian thing. But they do use the Y, so I'm guessing Dynamic. I don't know. All right, there's no... is there a Y in Italian? I guess there is. I don't know. They generally don't use it, though. Okay, so, but this, aside from De La Rocha, this really is the best performance of this I've ever heard. I think De La Rocha's is still the higher level performance. I mean, I think she's just unsurpassable. So write that name down, Alicia De La Rocha. Alicia De La Rocha. She's the best performer of really Spanish music in the recording era, basically. Okay, anyway, but Lasaracina is actually pretty excellent. She gets this idiom, and she's not Spanish, although she might have some kind of, connection to Spain. I'm not really sure. But she puts the Spanish elements across very strongly. You notice them when they come through. Okay, the first piece in the suite. All right, so what we're hearing, there are 8 tracks on this album. The first 6 are the Goyescas, subtitled Los Majos Enamorados. Okay, so this is about the two lovers. So in Los Requiebros, which means the compliments or maybe the flirtation. It's just this light sort of getting to know each other between the boy and the girl, making these little comments to each other or something like that, or complimenting each other, is the initial seduction part. The compliments are given with flirtation and also with erotic passion. How could we not have that? All right. In a Spanish piece, yeah? Mm. Russ has a comment coming.
I was just thinking of the Spanish fly again, but
the Spanish fly. They could have used some of that here.
Again, yeah.
I don't think it was necessary in this piece because I think they fall in love, definitely. Okay, the two main themes are taken from a famous tonadilla, and from Spain. So people hearing this for the first time would have known it, and I guess Spanish people today would still be able to pinpoint the melody as a famous song. And they go through a series of variation with nuances from gentleness and elegance to fieriness and passion. There are a lot of flourishes in the harpsichord style in this piece, and I really like that. It gives the whole flirtation a sort of old world quality, so it kind of feels like this is something that's been going on for a long, long time, like through history. This is the way young men and women sort of traditionally get together. It kind of gives it that feeling. There's a lot of all these elements sort of build up into something really special. It's got a pretty grand opening with a lot of Spanish turns, da-na-na-na-na, that kind of thing. The piano sound is a bit distant on this album, like you've just walked into a large room and there's someone playing the piano at the other end of it. So there's a lot of kind of room noise, but the detail all registers. It doesn't get lost in the room echo. This is an acceptable distance. I generally like piano recordings to be a little closer, but I have no problem with this, really.
Yeah, that was one I thought. For most of it sounds good, but I felt this piano in the upper register sounded quite thin and tinkly. In the middle registers,
the piano.
And when she was really hammering out some of the parts, I felt like I was really experiencing it. But some of the upper register things, I don't know if it's just this instrument or the way it was mic'd or something, but it, kind of thin in there.
It was obviously mic'd pretty far away.
Yeah.
So to get a sound like this.
It could be out of necessity, because there are some very intense, loud dynamics, and the contrast between soft and loud is huge on this recording. Yeah.
Right. By the way, the dynamic label hasn't really always been the best sound as far as sound quality goes.
Could be.
Also, but I don't fault the engineer for anything on this album. I think it sounds, it sounds good. It's an acceptable piano sound. The pianist also, Lasaracina, picks up the Spanish feel extremely well as all the sudden changes of tone. Like, the moods change on a dime, I guess, like the lovers' feelings, where they'll suddenly just light up after just, being gentle with each other. I guess Italians understand elegance and passion. Hey? Anyway, the piece is very appealing, but very dense, and Lasaracina sounds like an excellent guide. All right, again, though, you're going to have to hear this more than once. Second piece, Colloquio en la Reja, the conversation at the gate, or reja can also be a window, I guess. The passion mounts in this piece. It's a love duet, and the bass is imitating a guitar, so you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're listening. It kind of had the decay and stuff it has to be weighted so that it kind of sounds like the quick decay of a guitar. Okay, the central part of this is a copla, which is a very tender sound. It's a form of popular poetry in Spain, and it's played pianissimo. The recitative that leads to the final measures is more dramatic. So in this case, a recitative in opera is when the characters talk. They're not singing. For example, in classical opera, if you listen to a Mozart opera, you'll hear a lot of this. Like, they'll talk a little bit and they'll explain their situation and how they feel, and then in the song, they'll put across their feelings in the aria. So on the piano, the recitative is going to be, it's not going to be musical or kind of like sound like a melody. It's going to sound more like, narrower and in range and things like that, just so it sounds like someone talking. You can hear that towards the end. And it starts very quietly, like the passion is hidden. One gets the sense of whispered conversations. There's an intimate hush over the entire opening of this movement, and it starts to get bolder just after the 3-minute mark. The phrasing is more conversational, rhetorical, not song-like. And I'm guessing the copla begins at around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The harmonic profile changes there. And by the 9-minute mark, we're starting to hear strong declarations. There's something more playful at around the 10-minute and 30-second mark, builds to a passion around the 12-minute mark, and then quietens into something poetic. And the recitative that I talked about before starts at around the 12-minute, 20-second mark, and we hear the tender conclusion occupying the final minute.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool deceptive cadences in this one too. You think you know where it's going, and then it resolves in a different direction and changes up interestingly.
Yeah, the whole sort of texture of it will change too, like all suddenly too, and you're like, whoa, you know. Those are the kind of things, because you're just starting to absorb, say, the style, and then it'll suddenly change, and your mind, it's sort of like when you're reading a book, you know, and you're kind of like, I don't know, you read a sentence, you don't really get what it means, and somehow it's in your head, and you're still reading, and then 3 pages later, you don't really, you realize that you haven't understood anything you've read in the last 3 pages. Right. That sort of thing happens in this piece because of all of these sudden changes, and this is why I think you have to hear it more than once. But we live in the recording age.
Too long didn't listen age.
Yeah, right. If you were playing this on the piano, though, you'd have all the time in the world to figure all this out, though. Sure. So, you know, because theoretically you were playing it for your own pleasure and not to perform it. These days, it's all performance. Music making has become a performance thing. I think it's sad it's not a house thing anymore, like a thing you just do for your own pleasure.
Entertainment is othered rather than participatory, which is a shame.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. Well, back then that was already happening, but in the 18th and 19th century, it was certainly something that families did. Mm-hmm. Okay. The third piece in the suite, El Fandango de Candil. Any tune with the name Fandango in it just sounds really cool, doesn't it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love a fandango.
I like a good fandango. This one is called the Candil, the oil lamp, or the lamp fandango. This one is vigorous and rhythmic. It's a scene sung and danced slowly and with rhythm. It's got kind of a sonata form. There are 2 themes, a development and a recapitulation, but it doesn't really follow strict sonata rules. The development part won't develop all that much. It just kind of changes. There's a lot of triplets. And it starts with an ostinato dance rhythm, which breaks into the melody of full Spanish flourishes. The melody has a lot of these Spanish flourishes in it. They're in full swing here. These 2 are in love, okay, by this point. Okay, again, in phrasing as well as in subtle speeding up and slowing of tempo, Lasaracina captures the Spanish element well, and the rhythmic dance character continues throughout this piece. The momentum she has is very good here. This is a part where the De La Rocha recording has like a lot more momentum. She's really excellent at putting this across. All right, now I hope you enjoyed that, because things are going to start getting bad. No, I mean, I don't mean in the playing. The whole piece is going to be great, but I mean in the story. Okay, the fourth piece, Quejas o la Maja e il Ruiseñor. This is where things start turning towards death and away from love. This means complaints, or the young woman and the nightingale. All right. Well, complaints, quejas, can mean a lament as well. Okay. And this is the most famous piece of the suite. It's dreamy, enchanting, lyrical, easy on the ear. As far as the melodic material goes, not necessarily the form. The young girl is being comforted by the song of a nightingale, but has a tragic foreboding. So she's nervous about something, and she doesn't really understand what it is. She kind of senses that something bad is going to happen. So there's a 4-voice polyphonic prelude at the beginning, and the booklet says this is reminiscent of some of Scarlatti's Andante. I really didn't hear that. His Andante sonatas, that are played really slow. I didn't really pick that up. This sounded very romantic to me, at least in this performance. The theme that comes afterwards was taken from a popular song, which returns transformed in the next two pieces of the suite. The opening figurations don't remind me of Scarlatti at all, as I said, but okay, they sound great. They sound, to me, too rhetorical, with too many speech-like pauses to be Baroque, because I think of Baroque as being with no pauses. It's kind of like perpetual motion, generally. Okay, the beautiful song melody begins around the 1 minute and 40-second mark. It's highly romantic, despite this being written in the modernist era. It's obvious why this is the most famous piece in the set. It's very appealing, the melody. There are lots of difficult-sounding trills between phrases of the melody, in case you're thinking of playing this on your own. I mean, enjoy yourself, but I think this sounds kind of hard to play. There's some gorgeous birdsong-like trilling towards the end, and at 6 minutes and 30 seconds and onward in the upper register of the piano. Rhetorical elements in the ending are hard to put across, but Lasaracina does well with this. Okay, here we go. El Amor Ila Muerte. Bayada, okay, or Balada. This is the emotional climax of the suite. All of the themes we have heard return. So we hear everything we've heard in the first four movements, like all the themes are compressed into this one pretty long movement. This one goes on to 15 minutes. And they're all invested with a tragic reality this time. The last time you hear the Mahas, the young woman's motif at the end, is supposed to sound, in Granados' words, very expressive and as if there were happiness in the pain. Think about this. This is one of those laughter through tears things. The love with death. It's a complicated thing to put across. If you're the pianist, you really have to dig deep into your psychology to get this.
This contrast in this one really stand out.
Yeah.
Changing emotions suddenly, and sad to lighter things, and then the middle section is this yearning melody. Right. Everything comes back, but in shorter things, almost like recalling everything in a stream.
Right. The beginning of this is very like foreboding. It's in the lower end of the piano.
Notes there.
Ominous.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Lots of pregnant pauses. There's some real virtuosic passion right around the 1 minute 15-second mark. Then it quietens as we start to hear some of the suite's familiar themes file past at length. And at the end, death triumphs with slow chords, and we hear the tolling of bells. That starts at around the 13-minute, 10-second mark. Okay, so that could be the end of the suite, but as with Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, there's one more movement with that's rather unexpected. This is the Epilogo, Serenata del Espectro, the Ghost Serenade. So a supernatural element is introduced into the end of the suite. This is totally unexpected. We didn't see this coming. It is a very romantic idea, though, meaning from the Romantic era. They were really into the supernatural. A lot of supernatural stories and music that had supernatural themes came out of that period. So I think this might be a look into the Romantic era. The harmony goes into more modern sort of 20th century sort of spaces, I guess, from Wagner, moving on from Wagner, but the emotions are pretty romantic here. The dead boy appears with his guitar in this movement.
It's not Patrick Swayze, is it?
It's not Patrick Swayze in Ghost, no. Although he would have been appropriate if he could play the guitar in this role, and she would have been Demi Moore, I guess, huh? I could see that happening.
Could be.
Maybe that's where that story came from. Maybe the writer was a pianist who played the Goyescas. It's one theory. Anyway, I shouldn't say that because then people will say, "Oh, I heard on this podcast that." No, we're just goofing around.
Just goofing,
please, please don't quote me on that. Okay, the return of the motifs we have heard conjure up the past passion with new meanings and unexpected transformations. There's a dies irae in the bass, if you remember. By the way, if you want to be a big classical music fan, it's probably a good idea to know what the Dies Irae sounds like. It starts Dies Irae, Dies Ila, so dun 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 dun. Or if you want, you can go back to that Igor Levit recording that we did, and that piece that we did by that. That was like 1 hour of banging on the piano, basically. The Dies Irae is all over that, especially at the end, okay, in one of the last movements. Or you can just kind of go onto YouTube and just type in Dies Irae, and you'll hear like monks chanting it. But that melody is important to remember because it's used to indicate death in a lot of instrumental music, especially in the Romantic era. Okay, and we hear the tolling of bells, too, on the piano, along with the Dies Irae in the bass. At the end, we hear the theme of the Colloquio, which was the second movement. But its power of seduction is nullified by an ending that is ultimately ironic. It starts out like sort of tentatively with the guitar. There's passion of an unrecordable kind at around 5 minutes in this, and it all ends with some upward arpeggios from the guitar-like bottom end of the piano. And that's the end of the suite. Okay, and this is the major work of of Granados' life, really. He had other great music too, but this was like the big work he did before he was tragically killed. Okay, now another piece entitled Goyesca is track 7, El Pelele. This has nothing to do with the previous ones. Now, I should mention Goyescas, the first 6 tracks, are Granados' idea of if he were, I guess you could say, if he were Goya and he's making this sort of like musical original painting, let's say, in the style of Goya. There is no Goya painting that directly relates to any of those 6 movements. Okay, now, El Pelele, the 7th movement, is directly taken from an existing Goya painting by the same name. You can see it by just typing in El Pelele on Google or whatever search engine you use, and you'll see it. It's a painting of 4 girls holding a sheet, and they're throwing a stuffed straw doll into the air with the sheet, sort of like, how it's like a game. Okay. Let's see. This piece here is very dance-like. It's got like kind of a dance. It kind of put me in mind of one of those Isaac Albanese evocations of place in his Iberia suite. Like they're all named after a place in Spain, and he'll kind of evoke that place by certain melodies and rhythms and things like that. This piece is rhythmic and catchy. It's very virtuosic too, so it's a challenge to play, and it's also a very enjoyable listening. It's happy. It's not like dark like the Goyesca suite that we just heard. Lasaracina has the feel of this rhythm, and she gets the Spanish idiom, as I've said before. Okay, and then in the 8th track, we get to a piece that I've never heard before. I had never heard before until this week. Always nice to hear something new. Allegro De Concierto. De Concierto, I guess you could say too. I'm trying to go for the Spanish pronunciation here. Opus 46. Okay, Granados won the competition of the Madrid Conservatory with this piece in 1903. The booklet says it's Chopin-inspired in its writing. I could hear elements of that. And takes the form of a sonata. I don't know that I agree with that. Well, maybe. It has 2 themes in the beginning. But it kind of sounds more like a ternary form to me. I don't think there's a development in the middle. It's contrasting material. Unless I misheard something. I guess I could hear it a few more times. It starts out energetically with impressive virtuosity. And here we get to hear Lasaracina showing impressively even scales and glittering tone in her playing of the figuration. And at this point I noticed that the piano sounds a bit closer and drier with less room noise on this track. So I think this must have been recorded at a different time and place with a different engineer. I didn't look it up, but anyway, it sounds different than the Goyescas do. So maybe because they knew what volume she was going to play at, they kind of moved the microphones up or something. The second theme of the sonata also includes a lot of figuration, but is quieter. If it is indeed a second theme, it was kind of hard to tell because a trill leads to a song-like melody over a bed of arpeggiation. and there's a dramatic rhetorical section before the opening material returns. Okay, now I heard the middle section of this as a middle section in a ternary form. I didn't hear this as a sonata. The notes say that it's a sonata, but I don't know. Anyway, when you see something called Allegro De Concierto, it probably would indicate a sonata form. I'm going to have to hear this a few more times.
What I found the middle to be very much different.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, not a development. I didn't think...
No, because the beginning, what I noticed, just listen to this once now, the first section is quite intense, and it has these kind of rollicking right-hand figures, right?
Right.
She's really working this figure up in the right hand to the keyboard. Then the middle section is really tender and emotional with a really different harmonic kind of thing going on that's surprising. It gets intense into these outbursts and kind of runs and crashing notes. It doesn't sound related to the first theme very much. And then in the final section, it's sort of like a reverse image of the first section, because now the left hand is doing the runs that were sort of in the right hand before, and the right hand is sort of chiming out the chords. So it didn't sort of conform to, a sonata or some familiar structure. I just saw it as three distinct kind of sections myself. But, yeah, that's how I
this
heard
particular
it from one
piece.
listen.
Yeah, this particular piece sounds fun to play if you've got the chops for it. It must, so if you're a pianist, you may want to spring this on people. I think they'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in conclusion, the Goyescas are pretty dense and highly detailed, both on the superficial and deeper harmonic level, and definitely reward repeated listening. They go far beyond the brilliant evocations of place that we usually get from composers like Albanith. Okay, once all of the themes, which aren't all catchy enough to stick the first time, are absorbed, you'll get a lot out of this. This is, I think it's more harmonically related than melodically, although the themes are supposed to be remembered because they all repeat, and you do remember them when they come back. But you can't necessarily hum them after you hear them the first time. They're not as catchy as that. This is also a recording to repeatedly listen to, unless you decide to go for the best and listen to De La Rocha. But let's give some young pianists a chance and give this a listen, because it's excellent.
Yeah, great performance. Like I say, it's a big challenge to be on top of all the turns and twists that this music goes through. So I would say excellent, interesting content. You'll want to listen again. I'd give somewhat lukewarm sonics experience. It's not terrible. I think they could have captured...
I wouldn't even go as far as saying it's bad. I mean, it's not bad, but it's just not great.
Well, we listened to a lot of really good recordings.
Yeah, I know, right? Like last week, right?
So, a little bit disappointed in the upper register of the piano for whatever reason that is. But it's not unlistenable or anything. It's within the enjoyable ballpark there.
It's in the enjoyable ballpark.
Yeah. Well, it's terrible when there's some music that you really... I have a lot of music that I really like.
We've heard one or two of them on this podcast, in fact.
We're going to hear one later on that's a bit of a mystery, too. But
I know which one you're going to talk about, but I don't think... I think that's intentional.
Yeah,
I'll go into that.
But, it's not the case where you'll think that it's that distracting with the sonics. So, yeah. It was fun for me because the first time I've heard all these together in one.
Yeah, and then, a really great set of works.
Yeah.
Okay, and last we're going to get into some more singing. We have two vocal recordings this week. I try to keep the vocalists away, down to one per episode for us, but I know a lot of them. I know a lot of listeners. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to say the first one, I really enjoyed. Her voice, because we've heard her twice, María Cristina Kiehr.
Yeah.
But this one hit that soprano spot on my forehead.
It's too big. It's a mezzo soprano. She's not even all the way up there. That's a shame because I love this voice. Okay, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute.
Take it away.
This is Marianne Crebassa. This is a singer I really love, and it's mostly because she did this great record with the pianist Fazil Say I hope I said that right. Turkey. He's the Turkish pianist, Fazıl Say. I can't remember the name of the recording now, but it was a bunch of French, chanson and things like that. And they also played Say's an original work by him as well. And I just fell in love with her voice there, and I really wanted to hear this one too. Okay, this is a set of Spanish works by Spanish composers and also by French composers. In the early 20th century, Spanish music was very popular in France. It was a popular idiom, and a lot of French composers wrote in the Spanish style. They wrote pieces in the Spanish style. The most famous version of this example being Bizet's opera Carmen. He was French. And Carmen's an opera sung in French about Spain. There were a lot of these. Barbara Seville also takes place in Spain. It was a kind of a popular thing. Okay, this program, the reason it's called Séguedilles, and it's on the Erato label. She's accompanied by the Choeur et Orchestre National du Capitole de Toulouse in France, and the conductor is Ben Glassberg.
Hey.
I think he lived next door to me.
Sounds like could be possible, yeah.
I actually didn't. I should have looked up where he's from. He sounds American to me. Anyway, Andrew, while I'm talking, why don't you give him a search there? I'm curious to see where he's from.
Oh, I'll take a look, yeah.
Anyway, let me... okay, the album's called Séguedilles. And a Séguedilla is a Spanish dance form. And it's also a Castilian folk song form as well. Okay, now, Spanish and French songs. The program, Crebassa herself is French, but she's got a Spanish heritage. And this she wanted to do this album because it interlinks her Spanish and French heritage. So it's kind of an identity thing with her. No problem with me. I love both styles. I'm happy to hear this. Okay, so Séguedilles is in quick triple time, and it's a dance for two people with many regional variations. Generally in a major key as well. Okay. I wrote a long definition of what a Séguedilla is. Anyway, let's get into the music. We start off with tracks 1 and 2 are from Bizet's Carmen. This is her recitative, and then the most famous aria in Carmen, L'amour est un oiseau rebelle, which everybody knows, even if you don't recognize the title. Just give it a listen. You'll recognize it immediately. Or maybe not, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, the first track is just... I should mention the opera Carmen by Georges Bizet is the bread in this program's double-decker sandwich, because it reappears in the middle and then it ends the program as well. So you can think of this. This is the
Bizet sandwich.
The Bizet sandwich. He's the bread in the sandwich in this one. Okay. This is an intro to the next song, and when you first hear Crebassa's voice, it has this rich, low end. She sounds, even the way she's recorded, she sounds like a singer from long ago. It kind of sounds like you're listening to this voice out of a cleaned-up Victrola. It kind of has that sort of like burnished sort of amber-type quality to it. In this, I found it kind of refreshing. I like her voice in general, but I think the way this comes across here was really interesting and compelling. Then we have the famous aria. Okay, this is the most famous piece on this entire recording, and it's the one I had the most trouble with, unfortunately. This is the most famous aria from Carmen. It famously has a habanera rhythm. And the voice also sounds like an old radio broadcast. The pacing of this piece is deliberate and on the slow side, which allows the listener to luxuriate in the tone of the voice, sure. But as a whole, the pacing lacks momentum. And she's got to be her melody kind of goes up and down. It's kind of slinky. It's supposed to be really sexy and seductive. And it doesn't sound that way. It's just too slow. She sings the descending this is Crebassa, sings these descending melodic lines meltingly, like the melted vowels are leaving a stain, on your ear or something. Okay. Does she achieve the sensuality this aria requires? I'd say she's in the neighborhood, but I didn't feel this was entirely sexy. So I didn't hear the flaming sexuality that this character is supposed to have. And
more
I really
Spanish
think,
fly.
yeah, there wasn't enough Spanish fly, or at least, and I think I blame personally Ben Glassberg.
All right, now wait, I'm ready. He's not from Brooklyn.
Not from Brooklyn?
No, he's
Is
British.
he from
and
he's British.
From my calculations, he's only 28 years old. So
wow,
that's pretty impressive.
Do you know where from Britain he's from?
No, I don't. Didn't say.
Okay, well, he's British. I guess that's enough, though.
Yeah.
He's not from Brooklyn is really all I really wanted to hear. All right, anyway. Now you got me laughing, man. I don't know. All right. Third track, Manuel de Falla. This is from the opera La Vida Breve, a very hot, passionate opera. Please, when we say passion, we mean love and death. We don't mean like this is going to be something to listen to with your lover in bed. Probably not. You might wind up being killed by a kitchen utensil or something. Okay, because things might get out of hand. Okay, Act 1, Scene 3, aria Vivan los Queriens. So this is going to be a Spanish aria. This opera, I've heard this once or twice, but I'm really not all that familiar with it. Crebassa gets the Spanishness in this piece very well, and I was really relieved to hear that. Her turns are completely idiomatic, and turns meaning that da-da-da-da, that kind of turn melody that Spanish music has, and it has a specific Spanish quality to it, and she gets that. This is a pretty heavy, sad aria that states death brings the greatest solace for disappointments in love, a very romantic and 19th century era notion. There's also a tenor solo in this. This is Stanislas de Barbiré, I hope I said his name right, in a very clear, ringing voice. This is a really pretty voice, actually, for a tenor. I kind of never heard of him, and I'd like to hear more of him now. He sounds really good. And the statement from the chorus that admits to the same. Okay, this work is sung with the heavy, passionate sadness required, and I gotta say, it left an impression on me. I was kind of like, I guess, a little shaken by this aria. Always a good sign. Okay. Track 4, Jule Massenay from the opera Don Quixote. We know it as Don Quixote. Act 1, Scene 2. The air Quand la femme a 20 ans. This is sung by Dulcinea. And when a woman who is 20 years old. Well, they're adults in Japan, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right. There are a lot of show-offy opportunities in this aria for Crebassa, who absolutely delivers, I thought. There's a plushness to the orchestration that shows the voice in its best light. So if you really want to judge Crebassa's voice, this is really probably the best piece on this recording to do that in, because I think she's shown off in her best qualities are shown off in this piece. Massenay must have really loved whoever the soprano was who originally sang this, because he gave her a lot of ways to shine. There are vocalese elements, and Crebassa characterizes this role well. In the aria, the character Dulcinea is 20 years old and loves being feted during the day, but at night, oh, what a lonely life she leads. I wouldn't wish that on any woman, never mind a princess.
There's a few I might wish it on.
And I'm here to help, I just want to say.
There's a few I might wish it on, but...
We really are getting crusty in our old age, are we not? Boy. Was that Bill Burr joke? Yeah, you say, you're 20 years old. I probably shouldn't say that. It might make people mad. And then once you're 50, you say, say it, see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. What I like is when they say, you can't say that. Yes, I can, and I'll say it again.
Oh, man. All right, now the next 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces were a real find for me. This is the first time I have ever heard these by Jesus Guridi. I didn't even know this guy's name before. Jesus Guridi. This is from his Seis Canciones Castellanas And we don't get all 6 of them. We only get 4. And why? Why couldn't she just do the other 2? I'm a little disappointed by that. Because this is new music for me. I would have liked to have heard the entire set. Anyway, number 1, Alla arriba en aquella montaña. Okay. These were all accompanied by piano, and that's Alphonse Cemin providing the piano duties here. The piece's title means Up There on That Mountain. Okay. I enjoy Crebassa best in this element, actually, but with the piano. I think her because you can hear more of her voice. You know, the orchestra isn't really kind of framing it, sort of, so the piano kind of leaves her a little more exposed. And she's got a great voice, so there's no issue there. The works are all folk-like in this suite, and they have a lot of what we think of as Spanish tinges to the melody and the piano line too. And Cemin, his role is really important here too, and he characterizes that Spanish melodic quality well at the piano. This song is the first song here is about how the woman wants a plowman, not a miller, as a lover. Make of that what you will. All right.
Sounds like a blues song.
Yeah, it could be. Okay. I guess the plowman is stronger or something. I don't know. Anyway, Jesus Guridi. Next piece is number 4. So we don't hear songs 2 and 3 in this set. We skip ahead to number 4. No quiero tus avellanas, meaning I don't want your hazelnuts. I think that exact line has been said to me in the past.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a very pretty tune, though, with a quiet piano opening. This slow and rather sad song laments that the singer's lover's words have proven to be false. I like the singing and all the space and pauses in this piece. It's very beautiful.
Maybe that's what I'll get my wife for Valentine's Day, some hazelnuts.
No, that'd be nice.
I don't know.
Does she like chocolates, though?
Yeah, she likes chocolates, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Chocolate-covered hazelnuts?
Well, the thing is, in Japan, though, as you know, we should probably educate the world in this, too. Valentine's Day is a day for...
for women to buy men chocolates, yeah.
Women buy men chocolates, and it's called Giri Choco, right? It's kind of, you have to do it.
Well,
it's
for colleagues
required.
And things, yeah.
For colleagues and things. But the thing is, all the men who received women from chocolate are now required to return the gesture a month later on White Day, which is on, I guess, March 14th. It's exactly a month later, right? Yeah, I think so.
It's another conspiracy, just like Valentine's Day was a conspiracy. They've got a double conspiracy in Japan,
Yeah. Also, they're very shy people, so you're not going to see much romantic chocolate giving here.
Yeah.
Everybody here is very shy.
Yeah. Just think about that. You make another holiday to make up for the other holiday. What a scam.
Well, they just want to sell more chocolate. The chocolate companies came up with White Day. That's their invention,
exactly,
I don't know. Anyway, back to Jesus Guridi.
Yes.
If you remember, we were talking about Marianne Crebassa's album.
The hazelnuts threw things off the track.
The hazelnuts theme threw things off the track. Boy. Okay, so we're up to number 5 of the 4 that we hear here, because we skipped 2 and 3. Como quieres que adivine, which means how do you want me to guess? In this one, the piano plays rocking chords. It's a happy song, rocking back and forth like a kind of 2 chords going back and forth. A happy song about a singer thinking of and anticipating her lover. Nice feelings. And the last of this set, Mañanita de San Juan. This is a slow tune. The morning of the festival of St. John is what it means. In these, you can hear Crebassa's fantastic control of the balance of the melodic line. Good technique, beautiful phrasing. The tempo picks up for the second verse with a chiming bells repeated notes effect at the piano. And gorgeous songs that I've heard for the first time, and I'm glad I discovered these. I'd like to hear the other 2. That's a highlight of this album, by the way, those 4 songs. Make sure you hear them. Next, Jule Massenay, again, Nuit d'Espagne. This is arranged for voice and guitar by Gabriel Bianco, and it features a guitarist we've recently heard on the Asa Guitar album. This is Thibaut Garcia again, and we loved his playing on that album, and we love it here too. It's a nice change of texture from the piano. His tone is very light for this heavyish voice, though. I think he sounded really nice with the countertenor on that Asa. That was Philippe Jarouski on the Asa Guitar album. But here, Crebassa has a heavier voice than Jarouski does, which is kind of odd to think about. But she kind of he's audible throughout, but I think there's kind of the balance might have been achieved by mic placement rather than in the concert hall. I'm not sure about that. Crebassa's voice is kind of middle heavy. I mean, it's certainly not like Lise Davidson's voice, which is like just super projection. Okay. I think of Thibaut Garcia could have been recorded closer, probably, but you can still hear him. The guitar hooks are really appealing in this piece. And Crebassa is in her Spanish element in this French language song. Okay, so we are now at the middle of the recording, and we arrive at the middle piece of Bread, Georges Bizet, from the opera Carmen, Act 1, Scene 10, Séguedilles et duo, près des remparts de Séville. And this is a duet between Carmen and Don José. The separating piece of bread, and the bread, this double-decker sandwich, back to Carmen. This one is in 3/4, I guess, or 6/8. I'm not sure. It's another well-known aria. This one moves a bit more freely than the opening. There's an appearance by Don José, rich in full voice by, again, Stanislas de Barbera. I don't know how to say this name. Okay, there's something very deliberate and studied about Crebassa's singing that takes the passionate heat of Carmen's character away. I wonder if she's shrinking away from the... I mean, this is one of these iconic operatic characters, Carmen. Every soprano, every mezzo, she is written for a mezzo, wants to sing this role because it's very passionate. It's very women's power kind of this kind of thing, and they all want to sing it. And I wonder if she's just shying away from the greatness of the role. Okay, because I feel like she's kind of holding back in this piece. Like there's something not coming across. Anyway, next we get to Camille Saint-Saëns, El Des Dicado. Again, Saint-Saëns, like a lot of French composers, wrote Spanish-themed works occasionally. Des Dicado is the unhappy one. And this is a duet with two women, and the other soprano is Adriana Gonzalez. It's a nice piece. I liked it. But I was really anticipating the next 5 works by Federico Mompo, one of my favorite composers. He's really well known for his piano miniatures. They're just beautifully harmonized. And I had never heard any of his songs, and here they were. And I really wanted to hear these. These are called Combat de Somni, which means fighting sleep. The language is Catalan. It's not Spanish, Catalan. The first one is called Damunt de tu nomes les fleurs. And I don't know anything about Catalan, so I'm just going to say these the way I think they're pronounced. Right? Above you, only the flowers, and kind of a sad theme, so this person's probably dead. And it is indeed a death-haunted, sorrowful tune by Mompo, not as I imagined him. I imagined him as being much lighter than this. It's also orchestral. I was expecting a piano here, but it's an orchestral work with a soprano. Crebassa sings this beautifully with heavy tone that brings more to the sadness. And she brings the sadness in this piece. Next one is number 2, Aquesta nit un matin vent, The Same Wind Tonight. Another slow, mysterious piece. They're kind of romantic sounding, surprising for Mompo, because I generally think of him as being like almost like sounding French. But in his orchestration, he's more romantic. It's kind of interesting. Number 3, Yo e presentia com la mar, I sensed you like the sea. This one moves a bit faster, and these texts are kind of abstract, so it's hard to judge the singer's emotion. They're kind of, I can see why Mompo would be attracted to them, but he's not really writing in his usual kind of like, sort of gently tinged kind of like, well, the piano style is like that. Right. His orchestration is a little different. It all comes with the Mompo mystery that you hear in the piano pieces, though. You do hear that mystery in this. Okay, number 4, Fais-moi la vida transparente, make my life transparent. There are a lot of strings in Monpeau's accompaniment here. This piece rises to an emotional moment, but it mostly hovers around a darker, unresolved, and unsure timbre and harmony. And the last of these is number 5, Ara no sé si veig encar. Now, I don't know if I see you yet. This particular one has like a Debussy, Pelléas, and Melisande quality to it, but the soprano sings it rather than kind of like does Debussy's sort of like almost quasi-speaking sort of type of delivery. Crebassa moves between the styles well. The ebbing and flowing of the music also reminds me of a French piece in this case. So, I don't know. I wasn't really all too taken by these 5 pieces, even though I love Monpeau's music. I probably have to hear them a few more times. Track 17, Maurice Ravel. Oh, another pianist, another composer I love. This is from his Chant Populaire. He did like one song of 5 songs in all different languages from Europe, I believe. And this first one is Chanson Espagnole, and it's sung in Galician. The piano accompaniment, there's a piano accompaniment in this one, and of course it's by Ravel, so it's just really magical. This is a very appealing rendition of this beautifully arranged song. I'd love to hear Crebassa sing all of these. They're all in different languages. It's very catchy, this one as well. So beautiful piano writing as well. Track 18, Manuel de Falla, from 3 melodies. This is the third one, called Séguedilles. This has a piano in it, and it is ornate in its ornamentation and has fantastic Spanish inflections from Crebassa. The piano accompaniment is full of fire and Spanish inflection. This was a highlight for me. Track 18, Manuel de Falla, Séguedilles. Track 19 is Jacques Offenbach, who we know from his operettas and can-can melodies, rhythms. From the opera La Périchole. This first one is from Act 1, and it's a duo, Le Conquérant dit à la jeune Indienne. The conqueror said to the young Indian. This has a tenor in it, Stanislas de Barbiré, again, and he's Piquillo, and Crebassa is La Périchole. They sing well together. And then we get the Séguedilles from the same opera, Act 1. Vous attendez dit souvent. Okay, you have said often. This has a real Offenbach French theater quality to it. It really doesn't sound Spanish at all. It's almost in the opera buffa tradition combined with can-can music. We're familiar with Offenbach's very light style. Now, I was thinking of, in this one, I didn't write her name down. Remember that when we did the woman with the sweater? The soprano.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Turtlenecks and
the turtleneck
boats
one
and stuff, yeah.
That one. Yeah. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She would have been amazing in this. She's really good at this type because she has the light voice for it. Crebassa is very French sounding, but again, her voice is a lot heavier. And the piece has a sense of fun, and I feel like when you have like a heavier voice like Crebassa, you don't really get that sense of being a fun person, in your singing. It sounds more like weighty, like there's going to be something really serious stated here. She's flexible enough for this music, but a lighter voice would be better here. But she's great here. I can't complain about her. I'm just talking about my preferences. Okay, track 21, again, Maurice Ravel from the opera Le Espagnol. We had to have something from this, right? This is the air Oh, la pitoyable aventure. It's in French, by the character Concepcion. This kind of goes on to the next piece, but they had an ending has been added to this one, arranged by Romain Dumas. Crebassa's rather comic lament at the unmanliness of the men in the opera has some sonic highlights as she lets her high range ring out in exasperation. Excellent interpretation and sound. And then track 22, we end with our last piece of bread, Georges Bizet from the opera Carmen. Chanson bohème, Le tringle de sistre tinté avec un éclat métallique.
Wow. It's a mouthful.
Éclat is one of my favorite French words. It's like a, I guess a sharp sound or something like that, or like a sudden strike or something like that. when lightning strikes, they use the word eclat for that. So I don't know. Okay, and this is sung by a mezzo-soprano and two sopranos, Carmen Frasquita and Mercedes. Let's see. We end as we began with Carmen, the other very famous song in the opera. The accompanying singers in this are Céline Laborie and mezzo Victoire Bunel. This goes at a good pace. And yet again, I'm not sure that Crebassa has the smoldering passion for Carmen. She has the voice for it. I want to hear more passion out of her. She's probably going to play this role one day, if she hasn't already. And if she's going to record it, I'd be curious to see if she gets that passion. Okay, so in conclusion, this is an album of mostly highs with some dips. All of the dips are in the Carmen, unfortunately for me. Overall, it's excellent, especially if you like the singer as I do. It's quite a collection of Spanish themes, both Spanish and French, and the Montpeau and Guridi songs are a real find.
Yeah, this isn't my thing, as listeners have probably picked up by now.
Yeah, no worries.
The whole thing of soprano. But I have to say the material is kind of, the program was what made it more enjoyable than a complete, sort of opera or something for me. There's a lot of variety here. I was intrigued by the Montpeau, although it was different from what I expected, mainly knowing his piano works. But I like some of the other works as well. And you get the variety of, instrumentation, some guitar, orchestra, different kinds of backing, and keeping with the Spanish theme, but in a variety of sort of scenes and scapes there. So, interesting program for this one, I thought.
And one more thing, if you are interested, if you don't know the music of Federico Montpeau, he wrote mostly piano miniatures. See if you can find a collection of his works entitled Canción y Danza, so songs and dances. Canción y Danza. They're so beautiful. I just love them. Okay. And I am hanging up my earphones for the night. No, well, not quite, but as far as
the check music, out on me?
I'm not going to check out on you, but I'm checking out on my kind of research end here.
All right, we're going to go to the jazz side of
now
things.
I'm just going to comment.
Yeah, just comment. Well, we've been, saying we're going to do a Spanish or Latin theme episode, for a while. Of course, there's always some, Latin music, Spanish music, especially Afro-Cuban has had a big influence on jazz, along with, Brazilian music. And so there's always a lot of things bouncing around. But tonight I've got three kind of unique ones, I think. And we're going to start out right in Spain with the young Spanish sensation, Andrea Motis, who is a young trumpeter and vocalist from Barcelona, who also sings in her, I assume, native Catalan, Spanish, and Portuguese, and English.
Yeah, and the sensation she is, man. Yeah. Boy, this was really something.
The problem, though, I find, her vocals are rather more kind of instrumental-like. In other words, they're more sort of focusing on tone and flow rather than enunciation. So even when she's singing in English, I have a hard time making out what she's saying. And then when I have to decide what language is this in this song, it's a little difficult for me. Anyway, she's only in her mid-20s or so, but she became a star on the Spanish jazz scene. And she also composes most of the music on this recording here. And this is a collaboration with the WDR German big band Cologne, that was recorded last year, called Colors and Shadows on the Jazz Line label. It came out in November, so I've had it sitting around for a while. And part of the charm is the arrangements of the tunes, and those were done by Mike Mossman. And so it's a overall, you can say Latin music oriented focusing on Spanish. Also, a lot of kind of Brazilian music here. And so Motis gets to show off her trumpet skills, but especially her singing that's kind of enchanting. And so we start out a tune, an original Motis tune. I didn't tell them why. This one starts with a little drum intro, and then you've got this great big band, one of the best big bands in Europe, maybe around the world too. The band comes in swinging bigly. I'm going to take that Trump word because it describes the sound of a big band. It works
well for music, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then in contrast to the, this thick big band, Motis comes in with the breezy vocals over this kind of stop time Latin rhythm. And so this one's in English, as the title suggests. She switches over to the trumpet after a verse, and she gives us a little solo there. The rhythm changes up mid-solo to swing rhythm, and she just adjusts to that and follows along. Now, as a trumpet player, she's not a chops player, so she's not going to be doing dazzling pyrotechnics, but she has a very melodic concept. Think Chet Baker, these kind of melodic players, and so she stays in the warmer middle register mostly, and her solos have a nice melodic arc to them. She always resolves her ideas and stitches things together nicely. Then after that, she gets a scat section that goes along with the saxes. So her vocals are sort of vocalizing with what the saxes are doing, and that counters with what the brasses are doing against that with kind of hits. There's a bass solo in here. Then kind of like a mambo rhythm section that's introduced by piano follows. And there's another trumpet solo. I don't think this is her. There's some different trumpet on this album. I think this must be one of the band members because it's a completely different kind of tone, and it's up in the higher register. And there's some also really fine brass arranging going on there. And then it comes back to a final verse that she sings. There's a very nice arrangement with a lot of variety and shows off her singing and trumpet skills well.
Would you think of that as a scat? I kind of had a vocalese written down for her.
Vocalese.
She's really just kind of humming.
It's not,
it's
kind of not. There's no lyrics. She's just vocalizing with the sax section, I guess. So it's not really.
But she's not scatting, where she's saying,
she's not
like sound, like
improvising. Just sound with the sax.
Syllabic things. She's not doing that. Okay.
Next, we've got a tune Tabacaria, and this is not an original by her. It's Fernando Peosa, Juan Mar Sanque. This starts out with a kind of schizophrenic alternating rhythm introduction. The beat settles into a samba, creates a nice drive, and here I think Motis is singing in Portuguese, which she gets a very seductive spoken section over, and the beat fades away to some piano, comes back with a nice tight trombone section that works against what the saxes are doing. And Motis has another trumpet solo. There's an alto sax solo, and she comes back to sing the final verse. And there's great band arranging, filling in the lyrical gaps with punchy horn figures. So you get a good arranger. He's going to really, fill in, what's going on with the vocals with attractive lines and use the different colors of the big band well. And that's done really well in this tune. And we got a nice little arrangement for number 3, Senor Blues by Horace Silver.
Oh, nice.
Which I've played this, before. It's an instrumental tune. They had a great original horn arrangement too, and now this is stretched out for a big band. It's got a really interesting original intro. Before you recognize the tune, it's got all these stacked horn parts and guitar, and then the familiar rhythm. That if you know this original tune, Horace Silver, his trademark is his rhythmic sort of playing in his left hand and what he does with chords and things. So that comes in, and it's done with like bass clarinet and flutes here. So, there's a big band where they double up on the woodwind instruments, and so it's always cool to have bass clarinet in something. Motis comes in on now. So this, I don't know when lyrics were made for this tune. must be after Horace Silver, so maybe the first jazz singer who decided to make a vocal version of it. So this is in English. And she comes in singing with brass backing and a real heavy swing feel. And then a bass clarinet solo. That's always great.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime a bass clarinet appears, I'm just kind of really happy.
So she gets a trumpet solo, which she keeps simple and bluesy, and comes back right away without much gap at all to the vocals. They build up, backed up by the trumpets, then trombones. And there's a cool interlude with saxes and muted trumpets that it's very rhythmic. Next, we get a different trumpet. I don't know, maybe this is her again. It's a bluesy muted solo. And then there's a rhythmic and bluesy piano solo as well. The band builds it up around the trombone solo. They get some added percussion. Then the whole band comes to a swing out section with some screaming trumpets. And then Motis sings out the last verse. They really stretch this out up to 9.5 minutes. But it's a engaging arrangement of a great Horace Silver tune. Then we get track 4. This is by Andrea Motis herself. Also credit to Sergio Karkowski, Brisa, which I guess would mean breeze in Portuguese or Spanish. This is an up-tempo samba beat. Here, again, we get some vocalizations along with the instrumentals sections by Motis. And then she sings this one energetically. I think this one's in Portuguese. She gets a little more...
I got Portuguese.
Yeah, animated trumpet solo on this one. And next, our energetic trombone solo as well. Then there's a woodwind kind of sectional solo solely featuring flutes punctuated by cool brass lines. And then Motis is back to the vocals, and the band vocalizes behind her, keeping the spirit right up to the end. So it's a very kind of energetic samba type thing. Then I think, what do we have here? 5. Oh yeah, I think this might be the highlight of the album here. This is her original Sense Pressa, and this one's in, I believe, Catalan. The vocals here, it's kind of the theme here. I think reminds me of kind of like something like Vince Guaraldi, like his composition. The lush harmonies. It's really beautiful. Haunting wind intro with brass. Again, nice bass clarinet in there. There's a nylon string guitar that gets a little highlight space. There's a lot going on in this arrangement. Builds in layers and falls back with the guitar coming in again. And Motis has very thick and breezy at the same time vocals through the lush arrangement. There's an extended guitar solo, and Motis gets a lyrical trumpet solo before coming back to sing. It's a very pretty melody and also arrangement. Next, we've got Iracema. I'm not sure how to say it. I think this is by Andorran Barbosa, is a famous Brazilian samba composer. It's a kind of easy-flowing samba beat. Features I think it might be a bass trombone solo, and really nice snaking horn and flute lines. Motis's vocals are great here. She gets a rhythmic lilt in just the right spots that carries the vocals over the rhythm. There's a really passionate tenor sax solo here before she comes back with the final verse. Then we've got another tune by Motis and Karkowski, Sombra de la. It's a nice intro build-up until the beat gets established, and Motis comes in with the vocal. There's some nice harmonic changes in the verse. A piano solo here. She gets another trumpet solo on this one. A nice kind of instrumental solo section with flutes and muted trumpets before a very nice breathy flute solo. And there's another band interlude, and then a nylon string guitar solo before the last vocal verse. So really well worked out arrangement with a lot of variety. Next, another Motis original, Save the Orangutan. This one is kind of a fun tune. It's got this kind of fun, bouncy riff in the bass and piano. It gets built up in the trombones and then stacked with sax and trumpet lines. The main melody goes through sections led by trumpet and then pass through the band sections. There's a trumpet solo here. I don't think this is Motis. I think it's one of the band members. Then a trombone solo. There's a break and a really dirty tenor sax solo. Gets out some angst-filled sounds. And the solo is fed by these great band lines and hits from the rhythm section. Then a swinging sax sectional comes off from that into a drum solo. Then the main melody repeats, and they stretch it out with some kind of fermatas holds at the end to a dramatic finish. So, this is instrumental, but her original tune, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'd say that the orangutan was saved at the end, just judging by the the way it went.
I don't think they had a bushmeat dinner to celebrate. Yeah. And then we've got another Motis original in English, If You Give Them More. This gets a sweeping sax and trumpet lines that bring in slower tunes, pretty melody again here. She's singing in English. It's hard for me to make out the words, I have to admit. It's hard to find the lyrics for this album anywhere online, too. The melody has a lot of range and interval jumps, and that helps Motis bring out the emotion in it. It's kind of unique melody, I thought. There's a sweet alto sax solo on this one, a nice band interlude arrangement before the final verse, and the final chord leaves some tension left not quite resolved, and it's another richly layered arrangement. And then we finish with a tune written by the arranger for the album, I assume dedicated to her. So this is Michael Mossman's Motis Operandi, little play on Latin and Spanish there. This is an instrumental swinging tune that features the trumpets. It starts off giving the band some time to have fun before an extended trumpet solo. Then there's a swinging band interlude with some muted trumpets. Then I think next is Motis on trumpet. And next up there's a cup muted trumpet. Well, this trumpet has some serious spit in the tone. This is like a, I don't know. And then there's another trumpet solo, a different player yet, coming out of, full power in a real Latin trumpet style. Then the whole band swings out with some time for drum fills. There's another trumpet short solo spot as it comes to a swinging end. So it's a fun album with a lot of variety. Motis has an easy, warm trumpet style. As I said, she's not a real technician, but she's melodic and a nice, thick, warm sound. Her vocals are very attractive in any language that she sings in. Nice phrasing. They're breathy but not thin. There's a nice warmth to her voice, and she seems to get the right kind of emotional push and emphasis. There's a little bit of warmth, there's a little bit of sexiness, and it's just a voice you want to keep listening to. And then the band arrangements are awesome. The tunes are all fun. There's variety, and you got a really killer big band here. So it's a nice combination. Takes you through a variety of Latin music styles, touching on blues and other things too. So check it out.
You got a real samba party here.
Yeah.
I especially like this voice. I think it suits the Brazilian bossa nova style best.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good, like you said, but those were really evocative for me. And I'm always amazed at how, like, bossa nova evokes the beach and just chases all your cares away.
Yeah.
You hear like a bossa nova, it's kind of, So
well,
I feel like those tunes took all the knots out of my back.
I checked out some of her videos on YouTube, and there's tons of comments. It's all from Brazilians, like, "We love you, come to Brazil, we love you."
Yeah,
so
of course.
I think she's got a lot of Brazilian fans.
I can see why. I mean,
sure.
those are the most appealing pieces to me, really. Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah, she's got a really endearing voice. So we're going to jump from Spain to some of the shoots from the roots of Spanish music into the New World. And first, we're going to go direct to Cuba. with some Afro-Cuban 16 Rayos, the Orchestre Acocan, which I guess has different meanings, but also can be from the heart.
Yes, that's what I got. Yoruba. It's in the Yoruba language.
Which is, I guess, a kind of chant, too. So this is a multi-generational big band composed of top musicians from Cuba, both Cuba and New York. The sound concept they have is sort of like a revived sound of the golden Cuban music mambo era from the 1940s. So you get some rumba, son, tumbao, cha-cha mixed, with the inevitable influence of more modern fusions of Latin jazz. And so the album title is from a Yoruba legend about the sun's rays, like that. So it's a very much Cuban kind of concept here. And well, for better or worse, we alluded to this earlier. The sound of the album, I think it's mono. If this is recorded in
I didn't check.
stereo, there's not much separation here. And it has that. It sounds as if it could have been recorded in the 40s. So I think
without all the static and stuff, everything is clear at least.
Yeah, it's very clear, but it has some sort of stamp on the sound production, like they're trying to capture, how that original kind of.
I think they're trying to capture the experience they had listening to records. Like they thought it was like excitement. Sure. I think they did this for the same reason that people like listening to rock music or jazz on vinyl records. Yeah, sure. Because it kind of gives them that warm, and there's a little static where you're anticipating the sound coming out of the speaker, that sort of thing. Whereas on a CD, it just starts, you're just kind of like thrown into it.
Yeah. In the 90s, in the sort of neo revival swing phase that came out, I think the best band that was into that was Royal Crown. And
I remember them. Yeah.
So, and I know they did they went and they recorded with all like period ribbon microphones and things. It's the same thing, trying to catch the ambiance that you would have heard hearing that original music. So
but nevertheless, the big recording that came out in the 90s was the Buena Vista Social Club recording with all the old Cuban musicians.
Right.
And that was recorded in completely modern sound. Yeah. They didn't, they still had that old sound, but you heard it all so cleanly, and it's I don't see why you just don't go for that. Another person who does this sort of thing is Katherine Russell. When she her instrumentalists sound like they just stepped out of the 1930s and 40s, yet the sound quality of the recordings is absolutely modern day. And it's fascinating. It's like you've stepped back into the past. I would prefer to step back into the nightclub and hear the sound as you would have heard it in the nightclub rather than hearing this record sound.
Yeah, I do too. That, like you say, and we're expecting a new recording from Katherine Russell. What I put her wonderful sound down to, I mean, not talking about her, but the musicians. I'm always awed that she was able to find, and that there are, present day younger musicians who can still play with that authentic 20s kind of jazz concept, especially like on trumpet, and like that they can still get that Cotton Club kind of sound to it. And when then you hear that in crystal clear modern recording, it's like you're there in the club.
Right. So anyway. I prefer that to hearing the like I'm listening to an old record like we get here. Another thing about this, these are really songs. They were just popular dance club songs of the day. So it counts as adult, but I don't know if this counts as jazz for us. What do you think?
Well, what I think, you had a kind of a symbiotic relationship from what I hear from reading the writings and listening to interviews of Cuban musicians like Paquito de Rivera. And so to the Cubans, who were kind of, I guess, like jazz records were banned in Cuba. But so they tried to get these records, and they were listening, to what was going on in America. And they were inspired by the improvisations and freeness of jazz. And so they started to incorporate and copy the great jazz players on their instruments. And then the Cubans and other Latino musicians who made it into the U.S., got involved in the jazz scene. And, right back from the bebop era, you had, what was it, Chano Puzo, the conga player with Dizzy Gillespie. And so you had that sort of Afro-Cuban influence, right into bebop. And so I think the jazz Latin music, right from the bebop era was trading ideas. And so you wouldn't call this jazz music, but it's, it's improvisational and incorporating. I think they take the spontaneous nature and phrasing of jazz music and lay that over the Latin rhythms. And, so.
I see.
Yeah, I don't know. And it gets into one of those classification kind of things, Anyway, we start out with a tune here. What is it? Mi conga es de Akokan. My conga is from Akokan. So, one of the things that makes this album really fun is like the arrangements. They're really cool and surprising.
They've got everything in the kitchen sink quality to them.
So this gets stacking horn lines into kind of a percussion groove to get things started. This features the main vocalist, Jose Pepito Gomez, who's got real exciting vocals. Band call and response with vocals to the main vocal over conga, mambo type rhythms. There's a nice trumpet solo here over the conga too. There's some break for the vocals only to build the tension and keep it going and stay hot to the end. So it's a nice beginning piece. Let's see, the second one.
We should mention these are all original pieces, by the way. They're not no covers here.
Yeah, they're all original ones, right? So the second piece, what would this be? The 4th of October, I guess. How do you say 4 in Spanish? I forgot.
Cuatro,
yeah. 4 de Octubre. Starts with a solo kind of rumba chant by Pedro Francisco Almeida Barria. So it's a kind of chanting rather than, lyrical vocal. We get some horn, percussion interplay with some piano filling in the rhythmic gaps. There's a percussion breakdown with some more chanting, and it's kind of filled in with bari sax, which is really cool, before more horns flow through with longer lines. The final section features more spirited call and response vocals between Barriel and the band over conga, with syncopated horn lines repeating the riffs. So it really builds up and gets infectious. Let's see, track 3, Wajira Del Mar. And I guess Wajira, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is kind of a Cuban peasant dance tune, but it can also have the meaning of like a country girl or woman. So it's like a double meaning word. This is a slow ballad.
That happens a lot in Spanish, by the way. Like it means a country girl, but it also means a kind of song. Yeah. I always wonder how those things go together.
Yeah. It's a slow ballad with guitar, strings in here too, and strings. And the strings, I'm always wondering what strings add to different styles of music. But here, they add a really nice push to the sexy melody of this tune. Midway through, the rhythm breaks up for an interlude of horn hits, and it comes back with more kind of percussive emphasis. And there's a really slinky trombone solo in the final verse as well. And then on this album, there's these 2 short kind of curious interlude pieces. So this is Interludio number 1, which is just a short kind of percussion and horn interlude that has these descending lines. It's like maybe a palate cleanse or something. We get to track 5, El Inflador. This is a mambo that really makes you want to get up and dance. The horn arrangement's great. There's great modulation in the melody before it goes through this descending pattern. There's a great vocal breakdown in the middle. It starts over the bass and builds up, leads into some nice brass and percussion arrangements.
Yeah, this is a really dancey album, I should say. Yeah. It really does have a lot of that kind of dance energy to it.
Yeah. Almost every track gets you moving in some direction. Track 6, Fiebre de Mambo, Mambo Fever, starts with some crazy, very crazy guitar.
It's got some, there's some effect on that kind of makes it sound psychedelic. I don't know.
It's out of tune, too, like purposely. And then it breaks into a huge mambo riff that gets stacked up with interlocking horn parts and screaming trumpets. The call and response kind of rhythmic vocal verses come over that riff, and they get separated by these little horn and percussion interludes. The crazy guitar is back for some harmonically and intonationally, is that a word? Out there soloing. It's
maybe that's the fever in the title.
I watched a couple of their videos. I mean, he's playing a sort of like on a nylon string guitar with a pickup and maybe some effect too. It's a very unique sound. And there's a really exciting horn arrangement that takes the tune out.
Yeah, I think this is the only track we hear that guitar on. Is that right?
There's another earlier track with guitar, but not in the same way as it's played on this one. Yeah. 7, Orchid, solo piano intro that sounds kind of classical, and then it adds some real dissonance to wake you out of the prettiness. The horns and percussions slam in, and then it's off to kind of a cha-cha type groove. There's an endearing muted trombone solo with a nice bari sax counterline that works with it. An interesting piano solo of rhythmic fun and little dissonances. And then there's kind of low horn stab intermissions that come back at the end before the trombone picks up the melody again.
Baritone sax. That had me wishing this was in like more modern sound.
Yeah. So you could hear that fatness to it. 8, Interludio number 2. It's another short interlude with strings, flute, and percussion on this one. It's over just as you get used to it. Track 9, Llegue con mi rumba. I guess arrive with my rumba. It's starts with a dissonant horn hit and then energetic congas get it going. Vocal here is for 2 voices together. It sounds like they're doubled up. There are great horn lines behind and between the vocal lines that keeps the energy flowing along with the percussion. At about a minute and a half, there's a percussion and sax riff that transitions into some call and response vocals again with the other vocalist, Bariel. And then there's cool horn interludes and percussion dropouts for effect in there. Then at a little past 3.5 minutes, there's a kind of a stop and reset to a call and response vocals and chanting over the conga, and then the congas take it for a fade out. And then I thought the most kind of charming tune, the title track, the 16 Rayos, track 10, is an old style trumpet sound, maybe something out of the 40s in the intro. You get a kind of cha-cha feel, and you get an additional vocalist. I don't know how you say his name, Xiomara Valdez, and he's got kind of falsetto tenor kind of voice, and this is a great melody. It's got these soulful kind of twists and rich harmonies, and nice vocal interplay among the singers. After the horns have some fun with this arrangement of kind of descending sax and trombones topped with blaring trumpets. There's kind of a quiet reset with bass conga, chiming piano chords. They get some quiet horn lines with a muted trumpet until the end. This is a really fun and well-crafted tune. It's very enjoyable. It take you through some different moods while making you want to dance. So I think, overall, it's an energetic and fun recording. It's filled with all kinds of passionate rhythms, very intense vocals, that come in this Cuban style. Lots of surprises. It's rough around the edges. With that sound.
That's an endearing quality, though. I like it a lot.
It's rough
Exciting,
and ready
too.
and it keeps the excitement there. As I said, you may like or may not like this kind of production value of the sound, but the music is fabulous, and it's got this really. Watch one of their videos on YouTube. You'll see what I mean. Rather than going for the polished effect, they're just capturing that raw essence of the music, which is a lot of fun.
All right, this would be a great band to hear live and even go dancing to. I'm sure there's a lot of dancing at their live performances.
Yeah.
High energy all the way through. I thought this was. It was really good. I just would have liked it if it was in more modern sound. I think they should do that on the next album, because it'll be like stepping back into that time.
And this is their second album.
Yeah, I heard the first one as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different character.
They had some of the Buena Vista Social Club guys on that one. I think it was Compay Segundo was on that.
Anyway, really good Cuban music. Now, to finish up everything, this is kind of a contrast, because now this album is a very polished production.
Right.
Extremely. And because that's the hallmark of one of America, United States, New York.
Yeah.
Latin.
New York style.
Yeah, New York style.
We
Latin
have style in New York.
Music. The great Oscar Hernandez and his group, Alma Libre. And this is their new release on his own record label, Ovation Records, and it's called Vision, or Vision. Spanish would be a Vision or something, I don't know.
Right.
Vision. Anyway, this one is left me in a little bit of a problem, because this is, it's out, okay? It was released on January 22nd. But you won't find it on streaming anywhere. You'll have to go to his Ovation Records site, and you can purchase. And there's not enough information here. Okay, so it says purchase the digital version or buy the CD, and the digital downloads are free with that. So the digital version is $9.99, but it's only MP3s. It's not, FLAC files, CD quality.
That's not good.
No, it's not good.
Although I guess the CD would be CD quality, though.
Yeah. So if you order the CD, which I did, you can get access to the MP3s, and you can listen to it until your CD arrives. So who is Hernandez? Well, his career goes back to the 70s with recording with, some of the great salsa legends, Ismael Miranda, Celia Cruz, Ray Barreto, and others. And then he went on to join Ruben Blades' band, and eventually became his musical director. And from there, becoming a kind of legend in this music, he became a musical director for Paul Simon, and later Gloria Estefan. And, so he's not only a great musician, but, producer and director of music. And then with this group, Alma Libre, they made their first record in 2016, and then another one in 2019. And he's been, he's got a couple Grammy Awards too, if I'm not mistaken. And he's also now well known for his Spanish Harlem Orchestra, which is a 13-piece kind of salsa big band that's won 3 Grammys with that. So, he's one of the biggest stars of Latin music in the U.S. And so here, the other problem with not having enough information on the website and not having the CD notes is with the personnel. So we've got Oscar Hernandez on piano. On the YouTube videos, the credit is given to, I guess, a regular member of his group, Gilbert Castellanos, on trumpet. But the other information says it's Aaron Janik as trumpet. guest. And there's not two trumpets on any of the songs, so I don't know who the trumpeter actually is, unless I saw the CD notes. Justo Almario, tenor sax, Jimmy Brandley on drums, Oscar Cartaya on bass, Christian Moraga on congas, and we've got a couple other guests, Joe Locke on vibes, and Luisito Quintero on timbales. So the recordings start out with the title track Vision, and this one, I think setting this style of music, the bass is so important for the feel. Yeah, and this bass player, his bass playing is really great, great rhythmic drive. It's electric bass, and so he gives a great drive to this first tune. It's got a really nice horn arrangement, mixing slinking lines with exciting hits, and Hernandez gets the first solo here on piano. You'll get a feel, he's not a show-off player. He doesn't show off his technique. He works more with seeing what he can sort of accomplish with rhythmic ideas over the percussion's tempo that's going on and interlocking things. That's mainly his approach on this album, but everything he does is really tasty. Then Almario gets a tenor sax solo on this one. There's a trumpet solo. As I said, I'm not sure if it's Janek or Castellanos, because the credits are not clear from online information. Nice, cool rhythmic patterns in the trumpet. This tune and many of the others follow most of the solos with kind of a vamp section to feature the percussion, which we get congas and sometimes, like on this tune, timbales in there for a little extra kind of metallic sound in there, well, along with the drum set. And that gets topped off with cool horn lines over that. Track 2, Ritmopathie. This one kicks right off with really complex cross rhythms between the rhythm and piano and the bass that are working against these jabbing horn lines. And like everything on this album, everything is super tight. This is like really tight, and everything's clear in the recording. The main tune settles into a groove that's punctuated by sharp conga hits. It features extended horn section melody. And the trumpet solo is up first. This time gets up into the upper register, adding in some agility with 16th note lines. Hernandez up next on piano. Again, he sounds really relaxed, staying in the middle of the piano, but he gets a lot of cool rhythmic ideas interplaying with the rest of the rhythm section. Another vamp section to show off some more timbales. And the horns stack kind of counter rhythm lines over those rhythm section patterns, and they keep the intensity going to the end. The third tune, Dogno Provi, this is dedication to Hernandez's mother, I read. It's a very pretty rubato introduction. It changes into a relaxed Cuban, I guess this would be a danzón rhythm. And Almario switches over to flute and takes the melody here. Midway through, there's a quick break, and then it gets more rhythmic with piano and percussion, and the flute carries on with melodic and rhythmic coolness on top of the changing rhythms. Hernandez's solo on this one is very filled with complex rhythmic and fun ideas, and then the flute comes back when it settles down to the sweet melody and a cute ending. So nice dedication tune for his mother. 4 is Chick Forever, which is a tribute to Chick Corea. This one really relies on Cartaya's bass, which drives the rhythm in a perfect sync with the drum accents. The horn lines are cool, and the end of the melody features complex and cool accented figures. Almario gets a smooth tenor sax solo on this one, and then Hernandez has a little more running fleet figures in his solo than we've heard so far, And Cartaya gets a bass solo with really nimble lines on this one as well. And then there's a little percussion feature before a repeat of the melody on this one as well. Track 5 is called Make the Move. This one starts with kind of cycling piano chords that lead to a horn line with repeated descending figure, and then ending in this kind of cool triplet pattern that's synced up with the bass. Hernandez takes a piano solo here, which is a little more spacey and adventurous because this tune features some more modern kind of jazz harmonies. Almario switches over to soprano sax on this one for a solo. It's a trumpet solo here as well. And then percussion section with a conga and cowbell. Got to get some cowbell in there. So that adds to it. And before the melody repeats, and it ends up on that cool triplet line that builds tension to the end. So this is a little more modern, jazzy influenced tune. Track 6, Tributo al Son. This one has kind of a hypnotic bass interval bass line to it. And percussion there too. And it's a flute feature for Almario. I believe he must have done overdubbing here because there's 2 flute parts. It's harmonized. And so that really works through the main theme of the tune. Hernandez's piano solo toys with the rhythm beautifully. It's like he stretches out the rhythms but still stays into the groove. It has some nice punchy chordal figures. Almario takes a flute solo as well. It's a really fun, fluttering kind of dancing flute sound. The rhythm under the flute's really infectious. This is a really cool Latin groove to it. And they finish up repeating the melody, and the flute doubles up again. It's a nice effect. Track 7, Don't Stop Now. This one is kind of a unique arrangement. So the soprano sax and bass both take the melody. And so they're doubled up on that to a cool effect over these kind of spacey piano chords by Hernandez. So with the weight of the bass under the soprano sax, it's a very big gap in the register of those instruments. And then it switches up. The sax takes the melody when the bass gets back to adding a rhythmic bass line. And the sax has some cool trills, but there are spots at the end of phrases where the bass joins up and they're synced again. So you get this kind of separation and rejoining effect that's cool. Hernandez has a solo here that ends with figures over holds by the band that kind of sets up this like stop of the motion, which is kind of interesting. That also happens in Almario's soprano solo as well.
This pianist likes to play like sort of across the groove. He does this on a few tracks.
Yeah.
I noticed it's like his sort of style.
Like
if they're playing 3, he'll be playing 4.
Dissecting and working through the rhythms. It's all about rhythm with him.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's the real interesting thing of, this kind of Latin music is the complexity of the rhythms. And he's always thinking rhythmically. There's another percussion feature vamp on this one, which continues into kind of interchanges with the sax, and then the bass double line thing comes up again. Track 8 is called Spring. This is a breezy melody, and this is cool. Joe Luck comes on with vibes, and the vibes are paired up with Almario on flute. And
a real pleasant surprise, too.
Yeah. And there's a flugelhorn mixed in here, too. So you get this huge, thick sound of multi, timbres on the melody. It's really nice. And that goes into a vibe solo by Locke. He's really relaxed with this groove. He floats, this kind of floating mallet work. It's really pretty. Fits in here. And underneath it all, just through this whole album, but you hear it and focus on it in spots. This Cartaria's it's kind of dancing bass. It's just, adding this great kind of pulse of rhythm to it. Hernandez is next on piano, and then there's also a very fluid flugelhorn solo. And when they come back to repeat the melody, the flugel, which really blends in. I didn't hear it in the first section of the melody the first time I heard this song, but he gets some nice solo flurries at the end, so you realize, the flugel's mixed in there as well. Track 9 is called So Believe It. This one starts with aggressive descending unison melody lines on the bass and flute, again together playing against the band. There's a lot of tricky rhythmic play in the lines. Hernandez comes up for a solo here that kind of ends in sort of uncharacteristic upward kind of flourishing run. He shows off a little bit when it comes up. Almario is next on an intense flute solo. This is a really good flute solo. Lots of fast flurries.
I highlighted this one as well.
Yeah.
It's got this arabesque sort of climbing
like,
motion, and then it gently descends like a leaf kind of in the wind, I thought.
Breathy and cool.
Yeah.
Things break down in this one for some percussion and conga fun again, and then the flute and brass come back on top until the melody returns. So this is I think the flute highlight on here is really nice.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes you just get those moments when people really shine, and this is it for the flute. Yeah. I was looking for those on a jazz record.
And then the last track, Virtually Here. This one's kind of cool. There's a little different, unique feel here. I think it's down due to the bass pattern, which is this kind of offset 3-note bass pattern that forms the sort of core of the rhythmic idea, and then the melody is on top of that, and then it's Almario back on tenor sax, and the rhythm section changes up, or the rhythm rather changes on the middle section of the melody a little bit from that bass pattern, but then it goes back to it. Then there's a rhythmic break. Hernandez has a piano solo. Again, here he focuses on the interesting rhythmic ideas rather than flashy technical playing. Almario is really passionate here. His tenor sounds like really fat and thick before they go back and repeat that initial melody section. But this one, as I said, the bass feel with the rhythm is kind of unique compared to the other tunes, which sets it apart. So yeah, a really nice album. It's passionate, rhythmic, incredibly precise. Modern Latin Cuban music. The production quality is top notch. I'm stuck listening to these MP3s, but they sound really good. I want to hear the
CD.
I want to hear the full CD quality when it arrives.
You want to do that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you ordered it already?
Yeah,
okay.
I ordered it. And so I got access to these MP3s in the meantime. And I mean, obviously Hernandez has got this huge music career. He doesn't need to show off his technique, but I really like how he kind of dissects the rhythmic ideas in his piano playing. And this is a great group. The bass playing is outstanding, and then the percussion sets a great groove, and all the players sound really inspired and happy. Yeah,
there's some great soloing really throughout.
Yeah, the soloing is great, and how could you not want to play your best over those kind of grooves to that? So this is Latin music in New York with some great players and a master at the seat, and you should check this out.
There's no way to hear this for free? You absolutely have to buy it?
Yeah,
you have to buy the MP3 too?
Yeah. I imagine it'll come out on, the previous two recordings are available. Right. And it says that, this was going to become available. I just think it might be a gap in sort of release or something, with the streaming services like that. So anyway, you should definitely buy this album.
Buy this album. Do that.
It's going to make it dance. It's going to make it dance.
Especially after these last 2 years, they need your support.
Yeah. So, we've got, this one is, I don't want to say it's smooth. No, it's just super tight. And we've got Rough and Ready. And then we've got Slinky.
And it feels good.
Slinky and Seductive with Andrea Motis, right from Spain. And so they all flew in from Spain with these musical ideas that made themselves incorporated into music cultures around the world. So
So I'd say that on these albums, the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
No, that's not right. The Spanish flu. I probably shouldn't have said that. Okay.
No, don't say that.
I meant it as the past tense of fly,
Yes.
but I could also mean the 1919 Spanish flu, which I didn't really want to reference, but
Yeah.
there I am for all time now. So,
So
I don't think we should call our podcast the Spanish flu, should we? I don't think people would like that.
Probably not. It's funny how one vowel can kind of transform everything there. Huh?
Yeah, English is funny like that. So is really every language.
Every
though,
language,
so. Yeah. It's part of the pleasure of being alive, isn't it?
Yeah, especially some of those languages that don't have many vowels, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if we ever learn to transport our thoughts telepathically. If the same thing will happen, they'll be sound alike telepathic signals that you'll just kind of confuse or something like that. And yeah,
sounds too complex of an idea. Yeah,
worth a short story. Anyway, we'll have to look into it.
That's right. So anyway,
at least
this
imaginatively.
Yeah. Woo.
Get a lot of ideas on this podcast, listeners.
It's a whole idea for another kind of podcast episode.
Right. Well, a different kind of podcast, really.
I guess.
Yeah.
Beyond our musical realm. Well, this has been episode 49, a special Spanish-themed episode for adult music, the podcast with music for the mature mind. And once again, we'd like to remind you to please like, subscribe, follow us on whatever platform. Take a moment, give us a rating, write a review. If you want to contact us directly, you can get us at Adult Music Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. We're also on Facebook now. You'll find our
we got to work
there.
on that page a little bit more. I should have a look at it and see what's
Yes, if
what
you can
to
add
do.
something to it. But the episodes are there. You can also comment or contact us through there. And, well, we're coming up to a milestone. Next week, we're going to be at episode 50, which is also our 1-year anniversary. And we should go over 6,000 downloads if we keep on the pace we're at. So there'll be a lot to celebrate. So next week, we're going to do a live face-to-face celebration podcast on the same day we did the first episode last year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Friday? Is that right?
Yeah.
Look over here. It is, yeah. It's going to be the same recording day.
Yeah.
February 11th, our first anniversary of recording. The podcast actually went up on the 15th, I think, right?
Yeah, a little bit later. 15th. But we'll get
I have
this
the
one
dates
up.
written down.
We'll get this one up on Monday as usual. But face-to-face, what do you say? Steaks? Have you had a steak in a while?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Would it be awful to have steaks? I don't know.
It's never awful. I never eat steaks, so that's always a good thing.
Right. Well, we'll have some steaks and some
on my own.
And some wine and celebrate 1 year of adult music.
Yeah, we should get champagne.
We could do that too.
That could be nice. I'll look into it.
Yeah, I think we'll maybe take a couple of commemorative photos to put up on
the
Facebook.
1 year anniversary.
So if you want to see some handsome mugs, you'll have to come to the Facebook page next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So yeah, we have to listen to these tracks really early this week. That's cool. I'll get to work tomorrow. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see you again for a special 50th episode celebration next week. And check out...
I can't believe it's been 50 episodes.
I can't believe it either.
I can't believe it's been 6 episodes this year.
That's like coming on 300 albums.
That's a lot 300 albums. It's a lot of albums. And to think that we listen to much more than that because we're still listening to other things along with all this stuff, boy. Life well spent? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay.
And if you want to listen to what we're going to have in next week's episode, be sure to check out the Deezer playlist, which will go up Monday and give you a head start if you want to listen to the music before you hear us talk about it. So until then, until next Monday and episode 50, we wish you a good week, and we'll see you again next time.